Hello there, it's Len Cameraman from Hero Technical Solutions. In this video, I'm going to show you the basics of how to get Zoho Campaigns set up and integrated with Zoho CRM so that you are able to synchronize your contacts over and just go through some of the different options involved in that and get your first campaign at the door. So I'm using a demo system for this. I have a grand total of 11 and a whopping contacts in here, but this will be good enough to show you how to bring over contact data that also includes account information and get this set up in a way that is really usable and allows you to segment things so that you can email easily, and you can also do it in a way that will bring useful data back into CRM and not have to send the same one email out to everyone in your database. Don't do that. All right, so I am looking at my contacts here. There's a little bit of setup involved, not just from setting up the integration, but actually making sure that your data is in good shape to be able to work with this. For one, if you're going to email someone, obviously it's important to have their contact information in there. So one of the things that you may want to do in preparation for this, or just to note to do, hey, let's get a campaign out the door today, and then for future, to make this more effective, we want to make sure that we've got email addresses. So you could have someone go through and work out what those are. You might want to do them a chunk at a time. And one of the best ways to do that, rather than go into each individual record, is to bring up a list and then do them through the spreadsheet view. So it's more of a CRM tip, but just as we're going through this, I'd like to show you a few tips along those lines. And so I might even say, like, give me everyone where the email is empty. Okay, so now I'll get those 4 contacts, and if I had a longer list, this would be especially helpful. And then I've got this thing here, Zoho Sheet View. Okay, click on that, click Continue. First time this comes up, it might show up as blocked by your pop-up blocker, and you'll have to enable it. But then what it does is it gives me a spreadsheet view of this, and so I can look at this list, and I might still open, like I might go into my email or somewhere else where I've got these email addresses, or I might even call and get the details depending on my particular scenario. But then I can go through this and I can say that this is at acme.com. This is extra@.com. And sometimes I might include people in this list that already have an email address and sort it by company, because then I could see, hey, they use first name dot last name at whatever their domain is. So this could be qua@com. All right, I'm just going to make some stuff up here. You get the idea. This is chris@yourcrmhero.com. Okay, so I've got those in there. And the amazing thing about this is when I whack the save button, it actually updates CRM for me. So now I can close this tab. Yeah, it's fine. And let's just, we'll just run this filter again. So it is empty. Actually, let's just hit refresh here. Might have to. Okay, there's nobody left on this list. It's gone, so now I'll clear my filter. And everyone has email addresses. Now, of course, you probably have a lot of contacts or leads that you don't have email addresses for, but as many as you can get filled in is great. Okay, so now we're going to go over and jump over to campaigns. Okay, and just a tip too, if you're not using campaigns yet, or you are going to pay for it separately, you might want to check out if Zoho One is a good fit for you, especially if you're already using CRM and paying for the Enterprise Edition. You might be paying $35 a month if you're paying annually. For $30 a month, you can get Zoho One, which includes campaigns and gives you 5,000 subscribers per user. Okay, so if that is a foreign concept to you, you are welcome to pop us an email or get in touch, and we can help you with that. But just a note, if you're doing this and setting this up, as soon as you're starting to use multiple Zoho apps, you want to do the subscription math and make sure that you're getting the best deal by either doing the app separately or using Zoho One. All right, so now this particular demo account, we've already turned the integration on just to get campaigns connected to CRM. I don't have contacts coming into a list yet, or at least I'm going to set up a new list to show you what that looks like. And so under settings though, you'll go in here and you'll go to apps, and you'll see Zoho CRM, and it will say connect, and it's going to prompt you for some details to get this connected to CRM. Now, the best way to do that is to have the administrator ideally be the same person. So your CRM, main admin, the super user, is also the person who sets this up and is the admin in Campaigns. You get them connected. It's going to walk you through that. It's pretty straightforward. What that enables us to do is for Campaigns to talk to CRM to know, hey, which CRM account is it, and then we can set up lists and automatically synchronize contacts over and bring Campaigns data back. Okay, so go ahead and get that done. Hit pause if you're going through this recording, and then keep following along here. All right, so then next thing that we need to do is put together a list. Now, when you're thinking about how Campaigns works, it's really helpful to remember that Campaigns is a standalone tool. So it has its own database. And in that database, we refer to each individual person with a unique email address as a subscriber. So when we talk through the integration between the two, we don't want to assume that all of our CRM contacts are here. And we could also have subscribers in Campaigns that we've added that don't exist in CRM and vice versa, because Campaigns does stand on its own, and it's able to bring in subscribers from all different apps, Zoho and third party as well. So you can see if we built an app in Creator that has a list of people we want to email, we can actually integrate it with Creator. We can even pull data out of Zoho Analytics to give us a list that we want to synchronize and bring that over. But the focus of this video is getting us connected with CRM. So click on that. It's going to prompt you. It's going to prompt you with a couple of steps. Once that's in place, let's go ahead and set up a list. Okay, so I'm going to go to Manage Lists. And the terminology is really, really important here. Okay, you can see one of my colleagues, Lee, has been in here. He set up a test for something we were doing on this demo account. We're going to set up a separate list. But the terminology is super important. You have lists, and those lists are then further divided up into segments. It's also important to know that someone can be on multiple lists and in multiple segments. Okay, so being on one list is not exclusive of another. So we want to come up with a good strategy for our lists and segments. A really important distinction between the two as well. So list is the parent. So I'll show you an example of that, and if you're a visual learner, it may gel a little bit better seeing the example. But just a little bit of background before we get into it. A list is the main bucket, and then a segment is a portion of a list. So it's a bit of a hierarchy. I can say I'm going to create a list that I will put on all the contacts that I want to send event announcements to. Or I will create a list that has all of our CRM customers who are in Canada. Or maybe a better example is I'll send out a list for anyone that wants updates on our CRM training, and then I'll create segments within that to divide up who's in the US or Canada or the UK or by time zone or industry or whatever I want from there. And if you pick up anything from this, probably the most important thing to be aware of, I can't emphasize the importance of this enough, is your list names are visible to your subscribers. Okay? So don't call it like my top targets, okay, or anything like that. The people on your list are going to see that. So you want to name your list in a way that helps them decide what they'd like to receive from you. Now you might set up a single list, but you might set up 3 different lists and name them so that someone can choose what they want to get from you. That way, they don't have to decide whether it's all or nothing. So they can unsubscribe from everything, but they can also click on the link at the bottom of the email that says to manage their preferences. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a list here, and I'll call this Acme tips and tricks list. So, and then this goes to the bottom of every email. This reminds people, hey, how did did this guy just stick me on his list, or how did I get here? You're receiving this email because you attended an Acme seminar or webinar. All right. Okay, so now I'll create that. I'm gonna just close this because that's, all right. So now how do we want to get contacts into your list? So you can manually add them in one at a time. You can type in names and email addresses, which is super fun. For those of you who also enjoy, watching the grass grow and paint dry and meticulous things like that. You can import them. So if you are spitting them out of another system and need to bring them in, ideally you want to connect them to another source. So for us integrating with CRM, we don't ever want to have to export and import and do all those sorts of things. And you can also create a sign-up form so someone can join. So this will allow you to create some code you can stick on your website, and then someone can join that way. All right, so now I'm going to set this up to synchronize contacts. Now, this will also show up if you go into contacts later. There's going to be a list of sync options, and it gets you the exact same place. But from here, I'll say, I'm going to sync contacts from CRM. And then we've got a choice for immediate sync and periodic sync. Now, immediate sync is cool because if someone updates or you update someone's details in CRM, it syncs immediately. The catch to it is that immediate only works if we just want contact data and we don't want fields or criteria from the account record as well. Okay, so if your contacts belong to companies, you might want to grab the industry field and segment based on that, or decide to put people into a list or not based on things other than the contacts. If that's the case, you need to choose periodic sync. Okay, periodic sync is more powerful because it allows you to grab fields and use criteria from the contact, the related account, and even deals if you want. So you could create a list of people that have an open opportunity with you where it's not closed and won yet. So you could have a list of people who are interested in classes, or maybe you're doing corporate training and you have an open deal that's a certain category and it's outstanding, and you want an email to go out to them. Well, you can do that, but you have to choose periodic sync. So for the purposes of demonstrating this, I'm going to choose the periodic sync option, and just be aware that's what the difference is. Immediate syncs right away. Periodic sync syncs at most frequent once a day, but it gives us some more options. So I'm going to click create sync here, and it's the contacts that I want. Now I can also get details from the related accounts and deals. And I can also, another common option is I might do leads. So I might also set up a sync where I'm going to bring contacts and leads into one or more lists and then send out from there. So, all right. So I'm going to call this tips list sync. And I can bring in all the contacts in CRM if I want. I can do it based on a particular view. So if I have, I don't have a good one in here, I might create a view in CRM for people that are in a certain geography or certain product interest or things like that. New last week is not really a good option for this. So you could create a view here, or what I do the most often is I will set up the criteria. Okay, and in this case, I really want to bring everyone over, but just to show you, what this looks like, you can choose. So you could say you could go into, maybe I want everybody that's in Ontario, for example. So I can put mailing state is ON, and then you can add additional lines to this. You can also do it based on account fields. So I can say industry is accounting or HVAC or whatever I want there. Okay, so I can filter this. So as you come up with different lists for different purposes, you may want to narrow down who ends up in that list. Another reason to be selective is that the subscription for Zoho Campaigns is based on how many subscribers you have, and how much you pay for campaigns will then depend on that. Or if you're using Zoho One, you get 5,000 subscribers per user. Okay, so if you have 10 users, you can have up to 50,000 people, up to 50,000 unique email addresses in your campaigns database. Now, if you have a lesser number of users and you have a lot of people in CRM, you may want to limit who syncs over to the ones that you really need. so that you're not running into that limit or needing to purchase additional subscribers, which you can do, but if there's no reason to have them in here, then just be selective about it. Okay, so in my case, I am actually going to bring over all contacts, just fine. It already filled in the list for me. If I did this from the contacts menu and went into sync, I might have to pick the right list that I want. And then I need to choose what should happen here. So if they hit the email opt-out, so if I pull up a contact record, there's a checkbox for email opt-out here. If you check this off, you can't email from Zoho. You can still email from whatever other email system you might be using. If you have this tied into your Outlook or Office 365 or Gmail, you can still email from there. But if you opt out here, CRM doesn't let you send email. And then you can also tell it, hey, what should happen if a contact syncs over and has that box checked off? Well, you can choose, basically, don't do anything about it. Don't exclude them from the list. You can say, take them off of this mailing list, so they'll still end up in campaigns, or they'll stay in campaigns if they were there already, but they'll just not be on this list. Or you could remove them from campaigns altogether. So if I unsubscribe, or if you opt me out in CRM, and then this syncs, it'll remove me from Zoho Campaigns. Or you can move it to the do not mail list in Campaigns. So Campaigns has a separate list that it keeps track of people that should not be emailed. So you can decide how to handle this. Some of that has to do with how, if you have a really big list and you don't have a lot of direct customer interaction, and really have to make sure that when someone says don't email me, that you're not emailing them whatsoever, well, then one of these two options is going to be your best bet. Probably take them out of Zoho Campaigns altogether, or move them to this list to make sure that if for some reason they come back into campaigns, say through another sync, they're still not going to get email because they're on the do not email list until you remove them. All right, so those are the options there. I'm going to just say if, actually I'm going to put them on that one, so move them to the do not mail list. And then how often do you want this data? If this is a one-time list you need to choose once, otherwise you're probably going to select daily here. And then the sync time will default to something close to the current time. So it's 10:44 Eastern right now, so it's going to put that in here. I would actually change this. So we're going to set it up for, basically, I want the sync to happen before I'm going to send email out. So I like to send it for 7 a.m. because it's highly unlikely I'm going to send out email earlier than that. And that way I know anyone who, if there's criteria in here, anyone that meets that is going to get that email the next day when it goes out. All right, and then retrieve all data. Yeah, that's fine. And we'll go ahead and hit next here. Okay, and then we have to map fields over. So by default, the only thing that it's bringing over is email and last name. So we want to map some more fields here. So you can use the type ahead to make this a little easier. So I'll say, hey, and the bars here, this is actually showing the section headings in CRM. So just if you're not sure where that field is, if you can kind of scroll through, and it's sort of, even though it's not alphabetical, it's in the same order as it is in CRM. Okay, so I want first name here. And it filled in first name because Campaigns already has that. So I'll click add. And then I want the account name. So I'm going to get the, it should be in here. Oh, hang on. I click fetch account fields. And okay, now account name is already mapped for me. And you should also map over any other fields that you want to split up. So I want industry from the account. And Campaigns already has that, so I don't need to add it. Let's pick one let's go ahead and add that. And then let's pick one that wouldn't be in here. So if I scroll long enough, I'll get into the account fields. I don't know, ticker symbol. See, if it says select campaign field, it just basically means that there is no field with that same name here. If I click on new field, now it's going to create one. I can change the name if I want, but I highly recommend keeping the same name as in CRM as in Campaigns. It'll just make your life easier. As much as having a properly named field can make your life easier anyways, I guess. All right, so then we click add there. Okay, and then when I'm done this, I'm going to go ahead and click initiate. And so now it's going to start doing the initial sync. All right, so that'll take a little while to come over. When it does, it's going to show each time that it syncs. It'll show in here how many contacts there were, how many already existed, did it ignore some? We'll be able to click on this and see which ones it ignored. The contacts that it will tend to ignore are like info ad or sales ad or admin ad, those kind of generic email boxes that don't seem like they may belong to a particular person. Campaigns won't let you send those. As much as they can, they're going to protect the integrity of sending emails through their system so that everyone using Campaigns gets good results out of it, and they don't end up getting their servers don't end up getting blocked. All right, so we're gonna let that run. That may take a little while. I'll just bring that up. So if we want to go back to this, let's just jump over to our dashboard. Okay, and then we'll go into contacts. So manage our lists. That's where we bring back up that list. I can see it hasn't synced over, isn't finished yet, so there aren't contacts in it. Okay, under here, I also have sync services. So if I want to go back and change this sync or add a new one, this is where I can do that from. And I can see active syncs. I can click on here and see that this one is set, last retrieved. Okay, it hasn't come over yet. It's still chugging away. Actually, it says imported 11 contacts now. So maybe if I go back here, all contacts, actually manage lists. Okay, it's getting there. They should show up shortly. All right, so we'll go ahead and jump into the campaign creation process, the other thing that I want to cover here, and then we should have a list eventually. Now, this will be a little bit more interesting once the contacts show up. I could hit the pause button and record this a little bit later, but just to kind of get this all done in one go, let's create some segments as well. So segments are ways to subdivide a list. And again, your subscribers don't see the segment names. So you can be a little bit more less concerned about making them customer facing, so that they could be either particular customer names or industries or whatever purpose you're going to use those for. If I take a look at my contacts, or if I go into my accounts, I've got different industries. So I'm going to use industry as my example for segmenting. However, you could split that up however you need to. You might have something that says like what product line did they purchase, or maybe they have a distributor code, or they have a territory, or you have all different things that you may want to split these up based on. So I'm going to do it by industry, but the exact same principle applies. So let's go in here and hey, contacts showed up. Good timing. All right, so I have these contacts. I have this list, but now I want to create a segment for a few different industries. So I'm going to go into segments here, or I can click add segment this way. It's in the same place, and the segment has a name. So let's say I want this to be accounting customers, and then the criteria for this is that industry, which is an account field. That's why this is, for me, it was important not to choose the immediate sync, but to choose the periodic sync option, and industry is accounting. Now, unfortunately, I don't get the drop-down values here, so I need to be very careful that I get the same term. And then we'll go ahead and hit save. And if I click into here, it'll show me how many contacts there are. Now, I can look at this and say 4, but if this was not a demo system, I could click here, chugs for a minute, and it'll tell me there are 4 here. So now I've got accounting customers. Now I'll add a segment for HVAC was another example. So industry is HVAC. Okay, and I could also just clone the segment if I want. I could say that this is, actually this isn't going to be quite so helpful. This is more useful if I want to take the segment. Let's say I've got some segment criteria that's a little bit more involved. It might have multiple things that I'm checking against. I can basically clone it from here into a different mailing list, so that if I have 5, maybe 5 mailing lists, each for different purposes, I don't have to go and create the same segments across all of them. So let's just go and add one more, and remembering my other, okay, insurance, copy from here is my other segment. All right, so I'll add a segment for that. Insurance, customers, and industry is insurance. And it's worth checking on each of these that, yeah, okay, so that looks good. All right, now, let's see. I've got 3 in here, so I might want to check and see why the others. Oh, okay. So I've got 3 accounts here in there, but I've probably only got one that the is associated with that. So I would just guess that I've got, yeah, so there's one contact and the other 2 accounts probably just don't have any contacts. Yeah, that's the case. So, okay, so that looks good. I just want to make sure that numbers are approximately what I'm expecting. All right, so now we've got our segments set up. I want to just take a look at one more thing related to the synchronization before we go ahead and set up our first campaign up. So I'm going to go back into sync services and then go into the active syncs here for CRM. And then we've got some options under setup here. So what we've done so far gets our contact over to CRM and populates things in campaigns for us. What I also want to do is make sure that we are getting campaign details sent back to the contact record. Now this is already set to create a campaign record in CRM when we send this out, but we also might want a list of the campaigns that have been sent to come back into CRM at the contact level. So I need a multi-line text field for this, so I'm going to go ahead and create one. So this field will just kind of get a text dump of what campaigns they've been sent. So if you've done CRM customization before, this should be fairly straightforward, but we're just going to add a multi-line text field. So I'm going into contacts, into layouts. I only have one layout here. And I'm going to put this in with the description section here, and I'll put in multi-line. I'll call this campaign result, or campaign, yeah, results is fine. Okay, so I'll save this and close it. And then in campaigns here, under these settings, I'm going to say add new update email campaign. Okay, so I can tell CRM what campaign someone is getting. I can also use this to update them with what autoresponders they're receiving, and I can also have it sync scoring. It's an advanced topic, but we can do scores to score based on email opens and clicks and actions. I can tell those scores to sync back to CRM as well. So for now, we'll just set up this one. So if it's a contact, I want it to go, and I may have to bring this screen back up. Because I just added that field, I'll just refresh this screen. And then try this again. Add new email campaign, contacts. Okay, so it sees this field now called campaign results. I'll set that up, and that's fine. It's going to warn me, hey, if there's data in this field already, we're going to clobber it, and that's totally fine. So that is set. All right, and so now we will go ahead and go into campaigns, regular campaigns, and we're going to set up our first campaign. Now, this is going to send a single email, so the terminology is important. A campaign is a single email. There's also the ability to do a series of emails. I'm not crazy about the naming convention, but autoresponder is basically some kind of automation. It could be a series of emails. It could be emails. It could be an email on a certain date. And then workflow is kind of triggers and actions. When someone joins a list, send them an email, and then wait 7 days. And then based on this condition, send them another email. If they click on it, send that email. It can get really complex, but it's super powerful. But So as a starting point, and for the purpose of this video, we are going to send out a single email, or at least get to the point where we could send it out. All the emails get checked by Zoho before anything goes out the door to make sure that nobody's sending spam. So I'm not going to submit this, but we'll get pretty close to it. Okay, so now I wanted to give this thing a better name than untitled campaign. So let's say we were going to do a promotion to our accounting our people that are in the accounting industry on our list. And let's say we've got a webinar coming up, so we'll call this accounting focused webinar. That campaign name is only internal, so again, keep it professional, folks, but nobody sees that outside of your organization. So give it a subject. Okay, don't put in any symbols or anything like that. Keep it pretty clean. That's going to help it not get flagged as spam. And so then we'll say invited to our exclusive webinar for CPAs. And then the pre-header is what will show up in some email systems to show the email's content. And this doesn't even really appear in the body of the email. It's just if somebody's scanning their inbox, this is what they're going to see. So details of that go here, just because I'm not feeling super creative to come up with a good example there at the moment. All right, so we'll go ahead and save that. Okay, now who is going to send this? Well, you add sender details. You can use the same sender for all. It's a demo account that we have, so this is the wacky email address it would come from. And then you can decide, based on what you think is going to track better with your subscribers, you could put your name in here or the name of your organization, and that will show up alongside your email address. You can also add additional senders, so you can validate any email address you have access to, and it can come from that domain instead. Now, won't get into it in this video, but it is really important that you set up what are called SPF and DKIM records for each domain that you're sending email from. And those records will help your recipient's email server to validate that this email was legitimately sent and shouldn't end up in the spam bucket. All right, so you can use whatever email address you want for that. Just make sure that it's set up to be verified. And then your other option here is you can have it come from the CRM owner. So if you're sending this out on behalf of your sales team, then this option allows each person to get it as if it came from whoever the owner is on that record. So in my demo system, I think it's only got the same owner. So we have a fictitious user named Anita System, and Anita owns them all. So these emails, if we send it with this option, they would all come from Anita, regardless of who is actually doing the work in campaigns. So that's great too for sending the emails on behalf of someone else when you want to send it to multiple owners. And then there's an alternate sender here. Well, why would you need this? Well, in the event that there's a subscriber in your list that didn't come from CRM and therefore doesn't have an owner, then it's going to use this one. All right, so also here is, if I mention that about SPF and so you want to find out more about that, there is a link in here that will bring up details to help you with that. All right, so I'm going to use the same sender for all just to keep it simple, and this is going to be from Anita System. Okay, and then we have to choose the recipients. And this is why we put the work into setting up our list and setting up the segments, because now I can hit add recipients and I can choose one or more lists, or I can choose a list and a particular segment, and I can really narrow in on who I want this to go to, right? It drives me crazy when I end up in someone's CRM system and I get emails about everything, and it's very obvious to me that they are just sending the same email to everyone. Like, hey, here's our newsletter, and we're just gonna throw this up over and send it to everyone. Okay, don't do the vomit email to everyone in your system, unless you've got a very, very particular group of customers that are all really similar, and that's appropriate. But the way to not get unsubscribed is to be relevant, and the best way to be relevant is to set up these segments so that you are sending out an email to the right people with something that's of value to them. All right, done preaching about that. So in my case, I just want this to go to accounting customers, and then I'll hit save here. Okay, and now it's going to tell me how many contacts are going to get this, and now we can go ahead and create the content. And we have different options for this. So you can use a template that you've saved. You can use a pre-designed template, so you can send emails quickly with that. It doesn't require a whole lot of design work, but it's probably going to look like you used a pre-designed template. It's going to be obvious when you send that out. Basic templates give you the layout, and then you can add text and images to the placeholders. That is not a bad starting point. Or if you want something where you have full control over the formatting, or if you want something that's it's going to look more like a regular email, but have the footer and have all the opt-outs and everything that you would want in an email marketing piece, you can use this option as well. If you want just a basic plain text email, you can do that. And if you now this takes a fair bit more work, but if you have a designer who's building something outside of campaigns, because you have very specific brand guidelines and things need to look exactly a certain way and have a lot of control over that, and get a designer to do it, you can upload that here. So for demo purposes, I'm going to choose the HTML code editor and keep it fairly straightforward. This is a little misleading. It says by manually adding HTML codes. It's not really. It's more of it's an email editor. It's almost like a Word document, and you don't have to know HTML to do this, but you can edit the HTML if you want to. And the best way to do this and see what the different options are is try each one out. But I'm just going to do this one, and so I can say in here hi, and then merge tags will allow me to pull in first name. All right, and it's going to put the first name into there, and then if it doesn't find if there's no first name, it's not just going to leave it blank. It's going to say hi customer, which could be a little bit weird. Or if it's a lead instead, it's going to use the word guest. So you might want to edit these so that it'll look a little odd. Now, the best thing is really to just make sure that everybody's got a first name in the list that you're sending this to. So whether you're doing a search in CRM to verify that. I might change this to there instead for both of them. Okay, so worst case then, if there's no name, it says hi there instead of hi customer. I don't know about you, but I'm probably not going to spend a whole lot of time reading an email that starts hi customer. So I won't walk through this. You know how to write an email, but just to know that you can pull in the details from the record here, and you can pull up the contact owner name as well. So if you're sending this out, remember that option where you could pick who it was coming from. So you could put okay, and you have options to use different fonts and insert images and things like that. And then when you want to do a preview and test, click here, and you can see a little bit of what it's going to look like there. You can also send that email. You can send that as a test, and then when you're done with that, go ahead and close this, and then hit save and next. Okay, so now that is there. It's ready to go. But before I can send it out, and I won't actually send this, I'm actually going to wrap us up at this point. But I'll hit send for review if you want to read an explanation of that. But basically, it's looking for things that Zoho would not want to send out that would possibly damage your and their ability to deliver email. So you send it for review. Usually it takes 5 minutes or so, and then you'll either come back here and see that it's ready to go, or you'll get a notification via email. If you have the Zoho Campaigns app, it can send you the notification there as well. And then when you're done, you're going to send this out, either choosing the option to send it right away or to schedule it for a particular time. All right, so I hope that's helpful. But basically, we've covered how to get the synchronization set up with CRM, create a list, create segments, and get our first email out the door. All right, love to hear what you think. Feel free to leave your comments below.